With the County Operations Committee meeting for July 29th. So welcome everyone. I think we've got a great turnout and a lot of topics on our agenda today, so we will get moving. The first action item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes, and we have three sets of minutes. We have June 3rd executive session, and June 12th special county operations. So we will take that all in one motion. Ms. Duncan is the first, and Dr. Blair is the second. Any corrections, amendments, adjustments to those minutes? Give everyone just a second. Seeing none, I will go ahead and ask for a vote. So if we go ahead and put the vote. Megan, we have some outstanding? Okay. Okay, that passes unanimously. Thank you. We will now move to informational items. So we have our first standard two items are monthly, and the first one is the workforce reports. I will ask Ms. Angela over here to make some comments for us on that, please.
Sure. The workforce in front of you is for the month of June. So again, our standard, the top third of our workforce report are our applicants as well as new hires. The middle third is looking at our workforce demographics, and then the bottom third are our separations. So happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from the committee members on the workforce dashboard? I would like just to make some general comments on this particular report and the next one coming. We've had a few committee members ask if we can make some improvements to some of these reports. I think that's a very valid ask. I have spoken with the administrative staff on potentially what we could do to improve. I think we're all in agreement that these need to be valuable and informational. We're not here to make work for the staff. So I don't want to delve into it today, but I will be reaching out to each of the committee members asking for some of your input on what maybe we should change, improve, correct on these workforce reports and the vacancy report that's coming up next, just to make it more valuable for you as a committee member to do your job and for transparency to the public as to what our workforce demographics look like and what we're doing. The content in the report and maybe even the intervals that we report those would be my question. So just prompting everyone to give that some thought. Probably in the next 4 or 5 days, I'll start reaching out to members asking for some input. One more opportunity for questions on the workforce report before we move to vacancies. Okay, so we'll move to the vacancy report.
Okay. The vacancy report is just a snapshot in time based upon when it's run. So the green column is last month's vacancy report numbers, and then you can see our new filled or vacant position totals for each department. So happy to answer any questions.
Okay, questions from committee members? Member Daley?
Um, Could you explain why an FTE was moved from county highway to county administration?
So that was related to, there were two recent hires, so then it's the director of our special projects. We didn't have the approved FTE in county administration. So again, looking at budget, that was moved from highway had vacancy that wasn't filled. So then that, in order to keep the FTE numbers the same, not to increase, it was moved from highway to county administration.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions from committee members on this report? And maybe I give Angela, do you have any additional comments, Angela, about my earlier comments of looking at what we can do to make these reports more effective, committee members? Any things you want to share to let our committee members think about before I reach out to them in the next few days?
No, I mean, I think it's kind of obviously what do you want to see? What does our system, allow for? And then again, the ease of being able to report that. If it's, different intervals, sometimes just being able to kind of have that dashboard of, hires and separations is just kind of nice to know what's going on, whether decisions aren't made based upon that. So, I'm looking forward to the conversations and kind of see where you guys want to take this.
Okay, thank you. We will move now to the next report, which is a quarterly report for liability and work compensation report. And I think, Angela, you have this one also, correct?
Sure, yes. So yes, quarterly, we report out just kind of looking at our liability claims as well as work comp claims. So the report, that top half, is related to the various liability claims that we've received. So looking at 2025, we've had 3 that were filed, and then we still have 2 open. And then looking at our work comp, we've got 30 that were filed in 2025 and still 9 open. And this is looked at on a per claim year. So again, you'll see some of our past years, we still have some open claims. Those are being litigated and worked on through our TPA or through our work comp attorney. So those continue to work through those and close those out as they get resolved.
Thank you. Any questions from the committee on this report? And this is another one that I personally think is valuable. It allows us as a committee and to be transparent with the public of what future liabilities may be coming up, what past, and kind of as we do risk management planning and understanding the operational side of the county. I'll leave it as that. One more time, any questions from anyone on the committee? If not, we will move to the next item on the agenda. So the next item, we have 2 resolutions. The first one is a resolution of collective bargaining agreement with laborers, Local 165, operating engineers, Local 649, and Teamsters, Local 627. I need a motion to put this on the floor. Mr. Renault and Mr. Elsasser. There's a second. I'm going to turn it to Ms. Angela. You want to just give us kind of a high level of what the agreement is, and this is with the Highway Department.
Yes, this is with the Highway Department. We did reach a tentative agreement at the end of June. We've come and, kind of talked about some of our different language changes and things like that. So the tentative agreement is a 4-year deal with a 4%, 3%, 3%, and 3.25% for an all-in cost of the 3.85%. This contract actually starts June 1st, so those increases will be effective June 1st of each of the following years. And then in addition, we had talked about, some additional language changes, which will be, we were agreeable to the employees being able to earn up to 40 hours of comp time. They're also moving from a annual vacation accrual basis to a monthly, which is what a majority of the counties currently on. They will have up to the 80 hours of paid parental leave. And then there's also language in there for additional safety shirts and boot allowance. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions from the committee on this labor agreement? Seeing none, I just make some comments. Want to thank the Highway Department and each of the 3 bargaining units for working together to pull this into one contract. I think there's some good action here on both sides, from the administrative side and from the union side for these. So really appreciate the collaboration and work on both sides to come to an agreement for this 4-year contract. With that, I'm going to go ahead and ask for a vote. We have one member. Coates, did you not vote? Okay. So we, would you want to voice vote just so we have you on record? Okay, so she's voting an aye for it, so that would be a unanimous from the committee. Thank you. All right, we will move to the second resolution. The second resolution is Tyler Enterprise Jury Upgrade and SAS Migration. And I need a motion to put this on the floor. Dr. Blair and Ms. Coates. Ms. Coates, all right. So on this one, I've asked Mr. Little to lead some discussion around this particular ask, and this is for the court system, so he has Ms. Shadid with him on providing some background. And if you remember, a few months ago, we approved another contract with Tyler for some courts system changes to a SAS system. And I've asked Mr. Little and to walk through a little bit of a highlight of where we're at and how this fits together, because I want to make sure we all understand how each of these software changes within the court systems link together and what the plan is moving forward. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Little and Ms. Shadid.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Scott, do you want to go ahead and bring that up?
You want to broadcast the slide deck, please, Megan?
And please ask questions as we go along. I've asked Mr. Little to walk us through it, but I want to make sure we're all comfortable where we're at and understanding what the plan is.
So in our discussion on Friday with the chairman when we were preparing for this, one of the things I followed up on and looked at is that actually there's only 4 board members still here that when this system was approved and put in and started in 2011. So the other 14 were not part of the board at that time. So just want to give you a good update. I spent the last day and a half putting this together. He gave me a very short time limit. I will tell you, it's 46 slides. I will go through it very quickly. It really will give you a overall understanding of just how big that system is and all the different pieces of it and what it provides the organization. First of all, the initial system was approved by the county board on March 8th of 2012. The best I could come up with is on the initial investment. The initial upfront investment to get the system in was about $6.2 million. Since that time, with maintenance costs and that, we're close to the $11 million mark since we put that system in. We were the first customer in the system. The initial consulting began in 2011. At that time, the county decided to hire a consulting company to put together an RFP to replace the aging mainframe system that the courts ran on. Project timeline and progress, it actually went live in November 2013. I was hired by the county and started in August, so I was not part of all the initial pieces. Part of mine, when I was hired at that time by Ms. Luther, her focus for me was we need to set a go-live date, and it needs to go live for the end of the year. So that was my focus. There's been continuous improvement since that time, and I'll go into a little bit of that. Just this month, we migrated that entire system to the cloud. It was very successful. We closed that project out after 3 weeks. We had a handful of issues, but now that is all running in the AWS cloud at this time, the entire system. And I will say, and this, I put this in there, from my investigation of reaching out across the state, we have the only fully integrated civil and criminal justice system in the entire state of Illinois out of all the counties. So that's something I think we can be proud of. I know that the sheriff's department, the courts, the circuit clerk, we all get calls for references for this on how we've accomplished it. We had a visit from a group out of the Quad Cities that came down to look at the sheriff's department and the jail process. They're very much a leader in that area from that perspective. Like I said, it started in 2011. This goes over where we're at today. Initial contract was $4.1 million. That included $203,000 in customizations that were approved in 2012, and then there was a modification to the probation module before go live that cost another $50,000 to separate out the way the system works. Because we're fully integrated, it works on a party record. When you're booked in, you have a record, that's your single record, and that record flows through the entire system. At that time, the chief judge did not like the fact that if probation updated the address, that address then flowed back and everybody else could see that. He thought there should be a separation at that time, and so we had to pull out probation and set it out separately. That was an ongoing cost for us to support and continue to upgrade. So whenever we did upgrades on a regular basis, we actually had 2 systems we had to do it to. That's just kind of a summary. This is the consulting end of it. In the end, we spent about $1 million on outside consulting for project management along with Tyler and to do process improvement and look at all the existing processes and upgrade those processes. So on top of that, we spent $1 million on just servers, storage, computers, monitors, scanners, wiring, a number of things. That's a pretty accurate number. It was just over $1 million. I found that spreadsheet yesterday. There's the change that the directors from the chief judge for the detached probation, which we had. Initial scope was to create a unified system for the county civil and criminal justice system. I went back and found that from 2011. The inclusion of them, and then what happened is part of that development, they found to have a truly integrated system, we really needed to move over the jail, the sheriff, and the juvenile detention center. Prior to that, I believe the jail had just went live on a new system 2 years before that. And to be fully integrated, the jail decided they would move over to the Tyler system. And also my understanding, which I was not part of, was we didn't have to pay for that. We were given that system. And so there was no additional cost to put that system in. So May of 2011, the initial RFP was developed and NGT Consulting did that. There's kind of a timeline of where we've come from. March of 2012, the board approved it. November 2013, we went live. We had our first major hardware upgrade. All that hardware we bought in the computer room, we replaced in 2020 and did an upgrade. We did that all over COVID when everybody was gone. We came in and worked on that. It was a good time to do that and cut over in the middle of the summer. So, and that was very successful. And our latest upgrade was we migrated the entire system to the cloud just this past month. That's enhanced our scalability, reliability, and accessibility outside the organization. If you look at, we have roughly 80 applications we support across the county in IT. This is considered 4 or 5 of those applications, but this reduced our compute power in the computer room by about 45%. 45% of our compute power we had was focused on this system. Roughly 53 servers took to run this system and about 15 terabytes of back-end storage for documents. So, Peoria County's justice system, when you hear it, you'll hear a lot of people who were here in the beginning call it Odyssey. That's what we referred to it as. It was the case matter. It's now called Enterprise Justice. What's included in that is workflow between the sheriff's office and the jail, state's attorney, public defender, circuit clerk, and probation services, and then you have the courts in the middle of there, which gather all that info. So, as I said, as a person comes in, that record follows them all through all those systems. Those are not separate systems, they're all integrated. That's just a summary of what a background of kind of the justice modules. I'm going to start from the beginning and take you quickly through each one. First one is what we call Jail Manager. I believe it's now called Enterprise Jail Manager. It runs the jail, the juvenile detention center. That manages inmate information from booking to release. Now, one thing I'm going to jump into next here is that there's a lot of integrations and third-party applications that run to the jail. There's the commissary and the EMR. The commissary pushes inmate data to the vendor system. That's the commissary system. Also the phone system. We also have integrations with the electronic medical record, which is contracted out there. So there's two. We're just finishing up Guard One system, which is used for tracking inmate housing locations, and the inmate phone system side. Those are actually the commissary and the inmate phone system ones. I believe are the ones we're in process of putting in new right now. So we're working with the sheriff and his group to implement that. Iris and lifting up. Iris is a retinal scanner system, a third party we use to identify individuals, and lifting up sends inmate arrest report information to what we define as partner and local organizations that get that information. There's several places we push that to on a regular basis. LifeScan, when you are brought into the jail and through the booking process, by the way, which I spent about 4 hours 2 weeks ago in the booking area, and we were digging into some of this a little deeper to see if we could help them. LifeScan is what actually takes your fingerprint. That fingerprint, it sends data from the jailing system to the fingerprint system. It then takes that fingerprint, it takes it and bundles it up, sends it to the state, then sends back a document control number. That document control number goes from that system into the jailing system. Now you have a DCN number. It's applied to the case. Lots of interaction of data between us and the state. And PictureLink, that's your mugshot. That takes your mugshot off of that system and puts it in, and that mugshot then follows that through. There's also what's called the Sheriff app that sends inmate information to the public-facing Sheriff's Office mobile app and includes mugshots for public access, and then there's the video visitation system. More interaction with the jail system. There's also a product called Vine where we provide inmate custody status information for, it automates the victim notification system, and that's another area where we push data out of the system. And state police dispositions. We send regularly dispositions are compiled in a file, and we send those off to the state police on a regular basis too. So that's all the jail. So that all interactive in all those systems. Next, data flows out of the jail system when you're booked and heads over to attorney manager, which is another piece of the system. It serves the public defender and also mainly the state's attorney and the public defender. It manages case and charging information. The data is integrated. It initiates from data brought over from the jail right into the attorney manager piece. Case manager. Case manager is what everybody called Odyssey. Case manager houses all the criminal, traffic, and civil court case information and manages the court and hearing schedule. It's initiated with data transfer coming out of the attorney manager once the state's attorney has it. So that's where all the case files are held. We currently have 32 years worth of case files. When we migrated the system, we moved 20 years over from the old mainframe with the 12 that were coming upon, so we got 32 years of data in there. So there's also the child protection website. That's juvenile case information that's sent to a protected internal website that is reviewed by the clerk's office, and then they send all that to the ALIC. And then there's the circuit clerk app, which pushes court docket information to a public-facing mobile web app from there. We also have integrations with case managers to collections agencies, and we have court check-ins for the traffic case data for the traffic court. We also send information to the ICC driver improvement program out of there. And the other, probably one of the major ones, is all the e-file documents that come into the clerk's office that's filed These are new case filings, all online by attorneys and the public via the statewide e-filing system. This is all brought in automatically and reviewed by the clerk's office. This is now a statewide system. It's ran by the AOAC, and the back end of that all runs on the Tyler system at the state level, where all that feeds in. So when that was implemented and we had to attach to that, it was very simple. We had really no work on our end to do. We also have InFax, which is the courthouse displays that you see. That all is generated out of Case Manager on a live basis to keep those up to date that you see around the courthouse. And then we also have a special product through that that's for the judges called Drudge Edition, so the judges don't have to go in and work in Case Manager. All their cases and information is pushed to them at the bench through a special interface for them. Research Illinois, all that data that comes out of Case Manager then is sent back to the state and can be accessible by attorneys. That's another Tyler product that sets up and runs at the state. So everything we do feeds back into a central database at the state so every people can come in and access that. Website warrants pushes active warrant information. The ad information is available on the Peoria County website. And then all the financial pieces of that, all the payments, all the money is integrated with our enterprise finance system, Unis. So that kind of just goes over that, all the different offices where the money flows in. Then there's Tyler Enterprise Law Enforcement, which is back to the sheriff's office. They use that to part of the civil process unit. That's located at the courthouse and it tracks the service of legal documents. There's other legal papers that are tracked, subpoenas, summons, and other type of legal matters. And then there's the Tyler Alliance integration. That pulls initial case data from Tyler's Enterprise Case Manager, and that's how probation then gets that information. If you remember, last year we went live on a new enterprise supervision and probation program that sits out in the cloud. That feeds that information that way. It's a special integration you have in between there, which feeds all that data. Enterprise supervision is a modern cloud-based system. It's used for adult supervision and case management. It's also used for juvenile supervision and case management. And that contract was signed in 2023. It took us over a year to put that system in, and that went live in July of 2024. And that is also in the AWS cloud. We have a number of specialized and public-facing systems that pull data out of those systems and provide to people on a regular basis. There's the Enterprise Portal. That's a public website for court case lookup. Attorneys can actually get logins and access higher level of case data information than the general public. That is scheduled to be replaced by Justice Case Access and Data Integrator. It's a new product. That will not cost us anything. They've rewritten it. It's included in our support. Legacy Jail Search is a public website for inmate information lookup. It uses the Tyler Enterprise Jail Manager. It's scheduled to be replaced by Corrections Public Access. Another one that we're going to be working on and should have no cost. And then there's the Defendant Access website is a portal for online payments of traffic citation, allows for child support and maintenance fee payments. We're working on that with the Circuit Clerk's Office putting that in, and we're actually, we're a pilot program for that. That's something new. So I believe we got that for free because we decided to pilot as an organization, didn't have to pay for it. If you remember Axon. Axon is not part of the Tyler system, but it is part of what I would call our criminal and civil justice. It's a standalone. It's used by the state's attorney's office and public defender. It stores and manages all the electronic case evidence. All that data we used to store internally on all our servers is now in the cloud on Axon. And it also is used by the sheriff and the jail. It stores body and dash camera footage. It's used by, I believe, the sheriff's department and the police department in the city uses that. And it does not directly interact with Tyler Enterprise Justice, but it's still part of that suite of products that are used. Here's what we're going to talk about today when I finish with that, the jury management system that manages all jury notifications and engagement. There's no integration between the justice system, and its future replacement is scheduled to be upgraded to a cloud-based enterprise jury system, and that's what we're going to talk about next. One of the things we've always focused on, and since I came and we've continually focused on, is the ongoing efforts of continuous improvement. We have always done our annual system updates and enhancements, and always worked on the optimization of system performance through upgrades and additional capacity. I believe when we started, That system was 20 something area servers in the back end. By the time we migrated, we were up to 53. There's also been improvement in internal business processes. The reduction of resilience on paper, that was our big push early on, was we got to push the paper out of the courthouse, the jail, and there was a lot of paper. Actually, the first group we focused on was the jail. We started on them in like 2014 and going through and pushing that paper out. That gives us an increase in efficiency, and we've done a lot of updated training too. Optimization projects, we have 2 underway right now, one in the state's attorney's office, and then following that will be under the public defender. As of today, there's actually a Tyler resource in the state's attorney's office going through some business process enhancements and retraining. With people retiring and turnover in that office, some of that expertise has went out the door with retirements. I worked with the state's attorney and Tyler, and we put together a plan to bring in some expertise to kind of go through that, do some retraining and updating that. Following that, we're going to move to the public defender. Because we never had a full-time public defender, the public defender program was put in when we initially put the system in, but was never fully used. It's sitting there. They are using a little bit of it, but now we're going to go back in and fully implement it. The public defender's office is very interested in that and ready to go to do that. So, future enhancements and pending projects. This is what the chairman and I had discussed on what's in the pipeline, where are the requests that we're aware of. The jury implementation is what we'll talk about today. This is to upgrade to their latest jury management system, and it is cloud-based. It will replace the current system that's been around since 2008. Cloud Gavel, that's a new one that just came up as a request from the city of Peoria. Police Department, it allows judges to review and sign warrants remotely. It's requested by the Peoria Police Department. It can also be used by the county sheriff's office. The city has offered a cost-sharing implementation of that. That's going to require an intergovernmental collaboration between the two. We are slated to look at that later this month, and I don't know if we're going to bring that next month or after, but I know that our court administrator, Gabe, has been getting lots of questions from the city. They're really pushing for this, and I know the chief judge and the judge's staff are also anxious for this to electronically do that. So that's coming, will probably come to you fairly soon. The city is also working on a new CAD system. They got a $2 million grant, I believe, from the federal government. And what that is, that's their computer-aided dispatch system. That's what dispatches everyone across the county. That's in process with the city of Peoria. That will impact the sheriff's office and the enterprise justice system. From the sheriff's office perspective, we'll have to go into the fleet and upgrade the connectivity and software in the entire fleet of sheriff vehicles. And that will provide us a new integration directly from the new CAD system into our justice system. Today, we receive a file over with the new electronic ticketing that should flow all that stuff directly and populate our system automatically. I don't know if that's going to happen later this year or next year. They've been working on it for over a year. Yeah, so next year this will come up, and we'll have work to do on our end because everybody in the county uses the same system from the city. So, Justice Case Access and Data Integrator. This is a new system to replace the current Tyler portal. This provides public and attorney case access. There'll be no charge on this. There's the corrections public access. And then we just finished our upgrade to the cloud. We've been on hold since we started that. We didn't want to change the system. We've taken no upgrades, no modifications. We are getting ready for a comprehensive upgrade to the entire system to the new version of 2025. That will be a 6 months plus process. We'll have to go through all the internal testing and all those pieces. We also have one out there that's requested from the juvenile detention centers to migrate them over from jail manager to the enhanced supervision capabilities in enterprise supervision. That's when they built the new enterprise supervision. As part of that, they built the ability to manage juvenile detention centers. Juvenile detention center is different than the way the jail manages things. We've had some talk of this. It's not an inexpensive venture. So we are still in discussions with court administration on where this lines up with everything else. There we go.
Well, thank you, Mark.
So I hope that my goal was to bring you the perspective that when we talk about enterprise justice and Odyssey, it's a massive behemoth system. So, and it takes a lot of people to support that. And I will say the success we have, I think, flows back all the way to 2011, 2012, when that group got together, including the sheriff, the state's attorney, the public defender, the chief judge, and everybody, and said, we're going to do this all together, and we're going to have an integrated system, and that has kept going. I will say that's a rarity. There's not another county who has a fully integrated system like we do. They're all separate systems. We kind of sat down yesterday and looked, all right, what would it take if we had a system that was from 6 different vendors and all the integrations into separate party records? We guess you would have to double the size of IT today to support that, because you need multiple people in each one, and you have multiple party records, which you'd have to write custom integrations for all those. So, and I know there's been a lot of money put towards it, but it's saved in the long run on that side. So,
Okay. Well, thank you very much. And again, I tossed this to him about noon on Friday, so
yes.
he took the challenge, and he was actually had a day off that day, so he's probably wishing he didn't take my phone call that day.
Actually, yeah, it was a text from Scott. You got a minute?
So he'll be more cautious about that in the future. But again, the purpose here wasn't to make you experts on the criminal justice system, but it was to give you a better understanding of there's a lot of pieces in that system that touch and work together. Because sometimes we ask, well, what's there? What's behind it? And we see some of these pieces coming through on resolutions to add this one. So it allows us to see a bigger picture. We'll try to get you maybe a few pages of kind of boiled down images for you to help you grasp that. And again, it's all public information. So as to what we're trying to do to be a more effective county in the criminal justice space. So today, the element here is the jury upgrade system, and I got Ms. Shadid here, so I can't let her get away with not speaking. So normally, Gabe would be the one presenting this, but he is off today. So Jennifer, do you want to make any comments around what this particular ask is?
Sure. Just to kind of talk about the benefits to our office with this new system, it will let us check in jurors much faster and more efficient, which will also not delay courtroom procedures. Just today, we had a delay in a murder trial. We had to wait for the jury office to print all the forms. So that's another thing, like what Mark talked about. We'll be able to get away from paper. So right now we print the panel lists, the list of potential jurors, print all of those, multiple copies to give to the bailiffs to take to the courtrooms. We also print the qualification questionnaires for each of those people. So we're talking about a lot of paper shuffling, putting it in the right order, making multiple copies. All of that would go away with this new system. It would be digital. And just eliminate a lot of risks with the paper. It would also allow us to schedule automatic text and email messages so we can communicate with the jurors much faster, especially if there's last minute changes due to parking or courtroom movement, things like that. The batch scanning process would be new. Right now we scan to a folder on the computer, and then we have to upload that file to the system. The batch scanning process will be built into the new system, and we just auto-attach it to the right candidate. So those are the main benefits. Mark can talk to the fact that the system we're currently using, which we've been using for 17 years, is no longer being supported. So we don't have the option to continue using the same system. And along with the same system for 17 years, we've had the same business processes for 17 years as far as printing and scanning and doing things the same way. So we're anxious to get a system that will let us improve some of those business processes.
Okay, thank
Happy to
you.
answer any questions.
Yeah,
anybody
any
has.
questions from the committee on this? I know it's a lot of material, but I wanted to spend a little bit of time today going through it. Dr. Blair?
This is for Mark. I get the advantages of having Tyler and having it all integrated. What are the disadvantages to that?
You have a single vendor. I see more advantages than disadvantages. My background, I came from the healthcare side of things before here. I spent 15 years doing that, where everybody brought together integrated systems from single vendors to save money and time. You're locked in with a single vendor. There may be newer, better things out there that, maybe you're not taking advantage of.
Okay.
I'd say they've kind of, from a cost perspective, there's that piece of it, on the annual maintenance side, which we negotiate with, to keep everybody honest and what's in reason on the industry side. But I think the other thing, the advantage is that we are integrated. We're a small county. They have their case management system in entire states now. 60% of the population of the United States runs under Tyler Case Manager. It continues to grow. It continues. And but yet I can pick up a phone call and everybody at the corporate office knows who Peoria is. And they come and they help us because we were the first. We set the tone for Illinois and took that risk and were the first ones to do it. So I think there's both sides, depending on your view of that. I see it as a positive.
But there is a risk, right, that we're now kind of beholden to them. If they choose to raise their prices, there's only so much we can do about that.
There is, but we see, prices increase when we move to the cloud. That's a given. We actually started having discussions with Tyler in this cloud migration in 2018. I met with their leadership at a leadership conference in theirs, and they said, we're getting very dependent on the system, and I eventually see to the point that we can no longer function without it. So in the case of a water leak, things like that, our data center sits in a building that was built in the 60s that has 4 floors above it and lots of water pipes. And it worried me consistently. And they focused on that, and we finally got to that point. A few years ago, that was a $2 or $3 million a year venture. Now we're in the $600,000 to $700,000, so that has come down a lot. But I will say, we get lots of attention when we need help, when we need assistance, and because we are a reference site and we get calls on a continuous basis from potential customers, they're there to help us.
Member Groves Allison?
This may be more for Scott, but in terms of the intergovernmental agreement portion, what will that look like and when will we see that?
I don't know if we have a timeline on it yet. They still have to do a demo of the software, of that software package itself, and the city is I think pretty hot to move, but assuming everything goes to plan, probably sometime yet this year, but I don't have an exact timeline right now.
Okay. Any other questions? Mr. Member Phelan?
Mark, am I right to say this is a separate contract to all other Tyler contracts that we have?
Is this?
Yeah.
It will be, because we're moving to a SaaS. If we weren't moving this to a SaaS and doing an upgrade, this probably wouldn't have come here. They normally don't, but because we are writing a new agreement and it's a 3-year agreement, it's a contract. They're all very similar. Everything goes through Jenny, and she will find that whether it's from Munis, whether it's this, whether it's all of them, all their contracts now look very similar. So it's becoming much easier on that side. Now, when we moved to the cloud, when we moved the enterprise justice to the cloud, that was an addendum contract to an original contract that was signed in 2012.
Is it typical to see agencies buying multiple products have multiple contracts rather than just one all-inclusive?
Yeah, because they're all separate business units. They're a large corporation. They continue to grow. Criminal justice is a different business unit than what Munis is. They all flow up through, but those agreements, are very specific because a lot of them have statements of work with them, and those statements of work are completely different if we use as we go forward. Yes.
And then my last question is, you know, you mentioned conferences and a lot of people using the software. Are there any group purchasing organizations or states using leverage to get deeper discounts with this type of a company?
None that I'm aware of. For instance, City of Peoria put Munis in before we did. Legally, we can't share that. They're separate. And the other thing that's interesting about the state of Illinois is each county in the state, all 102 of us, run our own case management system. You get down to basically the top 30 to top 25 are all big enough to run case management systems, larger ones. Below that, there's not the resources or dollars. But there is a trend in the country. I don't have that list with me of states that have made a determination to go to a single case management system and run across the state the same thing. I don't know if that'll ever happen in Illinois. I would say the biggest jump was the e-filing and the e-research, both standardized, and everybody feeds into those standard systems. And at least that data is now being shared. Beforehand, you couldn't share that data.
Then my last question would be, do you find that your position empowers you to have conversations? Let's say someone brings a software to you that you don't think is quite a right fit or is not necessary. Do you have those conversations? Does that happen at your level, or where would that happen?
From a departmental side?
Correct.
You know, we do have those conversations. We meet with a lot of our larger departments on a regular basis, monthly, and we have those conversations on what they're looking at. And there's been times that we've pushed back and maybe found that could be already in the system, but a lot of the stuff we're doing now and the stuff is all newer stuff. You know, just like technology, software is developing. And I would tell you the next thing that's coming in this space is AI, the machine language stuff. Will County right now is using a product that was by CTI, which is now owned by Tyler. They're doing automatic reviews and flowing into the case management system off the e-filing system. Because when e-file comes in, somebody still sits down in the circuit clerk's office and reviews that for data integrity to make sure everything's the same place where it goes on. Will County, and we were up there in the spring and looked at it. They have now automated that. They have what they call 5 robots that sit there 24 hours a day and suck that data in, look at it, and send it off to case manager with a 95+% accuracy. That's going to continue to grow out.
Okay.
And they're a big county, 800,000 people, so they have the resources and money and people to do things like that. But I really foresee the AI piece slowly becoming more integrated in the long term.
Okay.
Thank you.
I guess what I'd like to do is, again, I asked Mr. Little to walk us through this. I think he's scheduled in a future month to come and give us a view of the IT update that we've asked him to do. This is the criminal justice system, one piece of what IT's doing. This is one I wanted to delve into a little bit today, but we'll have another opportunity in a soon coming month to delve in a little deeper. And I know we've had a lot of questions around IT services, what's in it, why are we doing what we're doing. So in essence, I'd like to go ahead and vote on this because we have some other topics we need to cover in this meeting. And we can, as committee members, if there's more things you want to dig into, we can expand a future operations meeting to really dig into. So I appreciate that. At this point, I will ask for a vote. And Member Elsasser had to step out, so he will not be making a vote while he's out. Okay. Thank you for that. That passes. And we will now move to item 5, discussion. We have a topic that you heard a little bit about in the labor agreement with Highway about paid parental leave policy. And it's a topic that it's on the agenda today for discussion. We'd like to walk through what the administrative staff has put together for us to look at what would be a good policy that we should consider. So today is discussion only. Shauna will walk us through that. Please ask questions. The goal here is if we get through the discussion and we want to move forward, we'll bring it forward in a future meeting for approval. If we have a lot of open questions, we will continue discussion until we make a decision of either up or down. So with that, I'm going to turn it to Shauna.
There we go. Good afternoon. Megan, can you share the screen, please? Thank you. All right. So we had briefly talked about some of this as it related to negotiations at the Highway Department. And so then we were asked to bring back a full policy for you all to consider. So that's what we did today. We know that there's a lot of information in your packet, and we wanted to give ample time for everybody to have some time to read through it and review it. So we'll cover the highlights today, answer any questions, and then between now and the next meeting, if you have additional questions, feel free to give me or Angela a call, and we're happy to walk through any questions or concerns that you might have. So what we did for this, why recreate the wheel if you don't have to? The city of Peoria recently adopted a paid parental leave policy that we were able to review. And from our perspective, it was really a good fit for us and really comprehensive. So we used theirs as the basis. We made a couple minor changes based upon how we administer FMLA compared to how the city does, so there's just a few tweaks like that. But the full policy is in your packet, but I'm just going to go through some highlights. I think the important thing to remember with this is that it's not an additional form of leave. In order to qualify for this policy, employees will have already been approved for FMLA, so they would already be getting the 2 weeks or more off. It's really just a funding mechanism for the first 2 weeks of that leave. So any eligible employees who are approved for FMLA will receive the first 2 weeks of that FMLA leave paid by the county. Currently, anytime you utilize FMLA benefits, we, as the employer, require the employee to run their leave time concurrent with that. So we start with sick, then we use their vacation, then personal, and if that expires and they're still on leave, then they go into unpaid status. So really the purpose of this policy is to say that those first 2 weeks of leave, they will be paid by the county at their regular rate of pay, and then starting week 3, they would have to start using their leave time benefits. So it really just affects those first 2 weeks of the leave that would have already been approved. This is capped at 2 weeks per parental event. So if somebody has twins, they still only get 2 weeks of leave. It also qualifies for any type of child-related FMLA leave, so birth, adoption, foster, any of those things. The city's policies stated that paid parental leave must be used within 3 months of the qualifying event. After discussing, we extended that to 4 months, and the reason for that is what we typically see is, the mother may be off for 12 weeks after the birth of a child, and then the father would want to be home 2 weeks after potentially she goes back to work to kind of spread out the amount of bonding time that each parent has with the child. So in conversations, we said that we're recommending that leave must be used within 4 months in case any parents want to kind of stagger their leave benefit times. If an employee leaves the county, any unused parental leave would be forfeited. Again, it would run concurrent with FMLA. And employees must notify their supervisor and HR at least 30 days in advance, or again, ASAP, say there's a premature birth as soon as they know, and that's standard under FMLA as well. So, and then we do require formal documentation for approval of that FMLA leave, and so that would be contingent upon receiving these benefits as well. There are some other counties that we looked at as well. As I said, we're looking at the city of Peoria. Lake County offers 6 weeks, and DuPage and Cook offer 12. So at this point in time, we're just asking for you to consider a 2-week paid leave program. This is something that we do hear from employees periodically, and we've kind of talked about internally off and on over the last couple of years, that at some point we probably need to start moving in this direction, and so that's what we have here for you to just review and consider today. I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right. Any questions from the committee on this topic? Dr. Blair?
Looking at the briefing, I just didn't know what it meant to say be in a regular pay status.
So, not off on workers' compensation, those types of things. Yeah. Military leave. Yeah.
Other questions from the committee? And again, we wanted to give everyone a chance to see it, see the documentation, have a chance to ask questions. I would ask in the next week or so, if you have concerns, please let Shauna or myself know. Otherwise, if we think we're good, we will probably put this on the agenda for the August committee to bring it through and implement this policy. Not seeing any concerns. I thank you, and thank you, Shauna, for presenting it, putting it together. All right, we have 2 executive session, closed session topics, but before we do that, public comments. I'll open up for public comments. All right, seeing none, we'll close public comments. Miscellaneous for the committee members. Any topics that the committee members want to raise at this point for this committee? Not seeing any. I need a motion to move to executive session for the purpose of labor relations and pending litigation. So, Ms. Duncan and Ms. Coates, first and a second, and we'll put this up for a vote. So, that should be open now in your live voting.